Welcome back at Digitized World Talk. In the next few minutes you will be listening to the first few pages of the book, Paradoxical World of Networks. If you want to ask us any questions, please use the comment function beneath the video. We will try to answer within 24 hours. We continue mentioning a digital manifesto, published at the turn of the year 2015 to 2016 by 9 well-known European scientists. The topics addressed in this manifesto touch on central assets of democratically oriented societies and, in some cases, paint a very sinister picture of future dynamics. Thanks for joining us.
The theories of systems, their structures, networks, complexity, emergence and exponentiality have accompanied my thoughts and practices for almost 2 decades. Prior that time, with many years of experience in IT starting in 1994, I was one of the protagonists of the early Internet and thus one of the pioneers of digitization in Austria. Therefore, I encountered practice long before theory. That may be the reason why I am interested in the practical implementation of networks and digitization in combination with theoretical principles. This is not always easy to understand, especially because societies are undergoing challenging developments and transitions with digitization and globalization. From the point of view of a theorist, principles that can be explored in the real world can be identified with the help of complex systems. However, the intention to design these processes and impose certain rules poses the greatest challenges. Communication and information make our globalized world increasingly more complex. The context of our living environment thus demands solutions to deal with this increasing diversity. We want to lead a good life that does not constantly confront us with unsolvable problems. We yearn for tools and techniques that help us to find our own individual way in this world of complexity. We build on solutions that help us to make forecasts that are as meaningful as possible. We need this to develop confidence in our abilities and a sense of security for the future. Terms that accompany this development in recent decades, networks and digitization, usually associated with the term disruption, which is capable of promoting forebodings. The term digitization, often used, especially in political and economic contexts, not clearly defined, but readily referred to as the solution to many current problems. One might think that this is the normal course of life. After all, Karl Popper clearly stated in All Life is Problem Solving that there is no life without problems and the solutions to them. This of course also means that the solution to a problem leads to the next problem without detour. That must be like that, otherwise life would be over. This precisely is the reason for the desire to be able to determine, or at least to anticipate, as many aspects of life as possible. This ability and competence to solve problems is also generally referred to as intelligence. Intelligence means to see, to understand, and to act consequently and logically. The sequence of insight, understanding, and acting logically, mandatorily includes the possibility of making mistakes. Minimizing the frequency of these mistakes should be a task of digital systems that are equipped with artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is becoming an ever more important part of digitization. Artificial intelligence uses so-called neural networks. The terms digitization and artificial intelligence open up an arc of topics ranging from technological, economical, political, social, and cultural to moral and ethical issues. This touches on areas of being human that are much more far-reaching than one might assume. This also is expressed by talking about disruption, which is probably meant to emphasize that digital technologies will change the foundations of society to such an extent that conventional solutions to problems will no longer be available. For many of the people working on these topics in academia, the simultaneous and mutually accelerating exponential development of networking, digitization and globalization is a cause for critical reflection. At the turn of the year 2015 to 16, 9 scientists had already published a digital manifesto in which they referred to possible developments in connection with the rapidly advancing digitization of diverse aspects of society. The issues addressed in the manifesto affect key achievements of Western, democratically oriented societies and in some cases paint a very dark picture of future developments. It seems essential to be able to name both positive and possible negative developments of these processes and to consider possible effects from different point of views. Positions prevailing in the current discussion generally represent a view of the economic and personal benefits that can be achieved with the application of digital necessities that are exaggerated into the positive. Other views warn of the societal effects of digitization and sketch out dystopias that eclipse George Orwell's 1984. The current discussion regarding contact tracing apps to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, their functionality, and the questions that arise regarding data protection only represent a minimal aspect of this issue. What the future will bring can only be described with certainty by looking back, as soon as today's future has become our past. The prediction of best-case or worst-case scenarios remains a prediction from which one can assume that both assessments of the extremely described positions will not occur as they appear to us today. And yet possible worst-case scenarios for the necessary technological assessments and the associated ethical considerations occupy an eminently important subject area. Complex phenomena, such as digitization, have the property of resulting in exponential developments. This means that both positive and negative consequences of digitization will lead to challenging transitions within our societies. The themes of the above-mentioned manifesto were continued and expanded to include critical, in the philosophical sense, comments and answers. The book, referred to in this video, is intended to support the call contained in the manifesto to bring about discussions of these specific topics and a related dialogue into society. To this end, it also seems necessary to create something resembling conceptual clarity. Buzzwords that are used in public discourse, to the extent this kind of discourse exists at all, seem to have a lot to do with being used in versatile and sometimes contradictory contexts with differing meanings. In the previous words alone, a number of terms have occurred that have since included in common usage, but whose fundamental meaning can only be understood from contextual considerations. To define what global networking and digitization can mean, an examination of terms such as algorithms, big data, Internet of Things, disruption, exponentiality, complexity, artificial intelligence, networks, privacy, security, will play a central role in understanding the meaning of these terms and their systemic, complex interactions, all of which also requires reference to the term cybernetics, the aspect of control, which we encounter in the world of the Internet in the word cyber in different contexts. There will also be attempts to discuss the possible effects on social developments. This requires an interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary approach in addition to positioning in the current social context. The combination of thoughts from history, sociology, cybernetics, psychology, systems theories, network theories, complexity theories, cognitive science, brain research, computer science, computer technology, ethics and, last but not least, different philosophical thought models should aid in this project. Dealing with these aspects should make it possible to recognize certain patterns of recurring processes. This again allows for the description of principles that can be viewed as the basis of social developments, a thoroughly philosophical approach. These considerations will therefore also draw an arc between the world generally referred to as reality and the world of philosophical positions and relations. In the end, an image should emerge that combines both points of view and can thus stand in our digital world as a real, analog perception.